I'm going to spend a lot of time listening and getting to know this community.
We're on track to build 65,000 seats over a 5-year period.
In education, there are three things that are important. It is instruction, instruction, instruction.
So to all of those youngsters, as I look at your faces, this is really what this is all about. You are the face of Los Angeles.
Welcome to A Conversation with Roy Romer. I'm your host, Tony Ginyard. Joining me live in studio, LAUSD Superintendent Roy Romer. Good evening.
It's good to be here.
Change is on the way for secondary school students. An additional year of math and science instruction may soon be required. It's all part of a plan to ensure students are prepared when they head off to college. Jim Kadani, Director of Instructional Planning and Curricular Paths from District E, will be joining us to explain. But first, how do you break a routine that you've had for more than 3 decades? William Fitz-Gibbon is about to find out. After 34 years teaching advanced math and science at North Hollywood's Walter Reed Middle School, he's calling it quits and is going to retire. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
As always, if you have any questions for our guest or for the superintendent, go ahead and give us a call. They are here to answer your questions live on the air. The number is 1-800-527-8839. We ask that you press 2. Mr. Romer.
Can I be personal? How old are you?
Well, I'm going to be 69 this August.
All right. Now, what new life are you going to take up when you retire?
Well, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to be an advocate for gifted education. I hope to do a lot of writing and speaking and such and promoting, as well as supporting the Walter Reed program. I just can't leave those kids.
Yeah. Your students call you Fitz.
That's correct.
Can I call you Fitz?
You may.
All right, thank you. I really wanted to have you on tonight, and I thank you for coming. You have had a remarkable career, and tell us in a paragraph, you've been at this one school 32 years?
Well, I've been there 34, but it took 32 years with this one program. I went there to start up the program up, and it took a couple of years to get it going.
And IHP, what does it stand for?
Individual Honors Program.
And describe it. What grades do you teach?
Well, we have 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. Originally, it was a junior high when we first started the program.
Yes.
And at that time, I tended to teach 7th, 8th, and 9th graders. Mm-hmm. But now, when we've gone over to a middle school, I teach mostly 8th and 9th graders, except for a few exceptional 6th graders who will do accelerated math with me.
Yes. Now, you teach math and physics, or just physics?
Well, I teach both. And I had taught AP chemistry as well when we were junior high, but now I've gone to just teaching an 8th grade AP physics class.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I've always associated AP with high school.
That's true.
But is it universal that they have AP courses in the 8th grade?
One of the sort of things that many educators have not recognized fully is the tremendous variation in abilities among students, and that these students are capable of doing AP physics at that age level if they are developed for it, if they are offered a challenge to do it. But unfortunately, many of our really highly gifted kids are not given an adequate challenge, so they can't demonstrate what they're able to do.
How do you find them, or do they find you?
They find us now. I mean, our program's reputation has spread by word of mouth from graduates of our program, or parents knowing parents and things like that. And so we always get a lot of interest in our program.
Now, if I'm a student and I come to the middle school, do I only have your courses that are at this level? But there's a group of you who are teaching advanced students.
We're a team, and we have English a teacher and a social studies teacher, and then we have an outstanding music program and other areas there where many teachers contribute to the education of the kids in our program.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Clearly, 34 years ago, you saw a need for this.
Yes, I
Is
did.
the same need still there?
Unfortunately, there is, because I had hoped there would be more such programs in this, starting. And that's why I'm going to now campaign for that after I get out of here, because this is one of our most valuable natural resources, our kids. And there really is a lack of wisdom in our society. Now, true, man is only a couple million years old, and we have only gained most of our knowledge in the last century about understanding ourselves, but still, the knowledge that the top scientists have takes a long time to filter through the general population. And when we look at the Senate, the Congress of the United States, we see very few people there that understand science. And yet, understanding science is very critical to today's life. Now, I don't say people should just be trained as physicists. The idea of our program is to have them well-rounded. If you're familiar with C.P. Snow's concept of the two cultures, the humanities and the sciences, well, very few people bridge those two sciences. And our educational system isn't set up for them to do that. If a bright kid goes through a regular high school and goes on to college, he has to spend most of his college years in one specialty. But if we accelerate the kids, see, I looked at the junior high area as sort of a vast waste ground when I began to teach. I started just teaching while I was doing graduate work at UCLA. And I just looked around and saw, well, gee, what junior high did was repeat things that kids did in elementary school and preview things they're going to do in high school. But it didn't really ask them to do anything much new. And studies showed that 90% of what gifted children's, over the curriculum for the year, gifted children already knew before the year even started. So they're wasting their time there, and they get bored.
Give me the definition you have of gifted.
Well, okay, gifted is usually defined as 130 IQ. Highly gifted is either defined as 140 or 145 IQ.
Yeah.
And I found the 140 was sufficient to have students perform at this high level. You know, there's nothing magical about a few IQ points. And we've never, in our program, been stuck by that. If we find some kid who's made fantastic achievements and has tremendous drive, and he's got a 138 IQ, we'll take him in the program.
Yeah. Now, if I'm a youngster and I want to come join your program, what do? I go over and sit down and take a battery of tests, or
no? I wish we could get to that, but I wish the high school, particularly the highly gifted high school, would do that, as schools like Stuyvesant and Brooklyn, Bronx High School of Science and such do, is have tests for it.
But how do you screen me? If I'm saying, hey, I want to join, how do you decide whether I'm qualified?
Well, we get all the information we can about you. We'll get IQ scores, we'll get your Stay9 scores, we'll get teacher recommendations, we'll get grades, and we go over this, and it's worked well enough. You know, I'm sure we always miss one or two kids that would do well, and we may get one or two that have problems just keeping up with the curriculum. But the vast number of students we get, it works very well. And we don't miss out really at the very top kids who desperately need this kind of program, that just don't fit in a regular school program, that we can recognize that.
Do you have a waiting list?
Yes, we always, unfortunately, have a waiting list.
What's the demand that you can't fill? Is it 2 times, 3 times, 4 times what you fill or not?
I think it could. I mean, you know, some people don't apply because they know they won't make it into the program. That I mean, I'm sure we could double, triple the number of students in such programs and do it. Now, Reed is not the only program catering to the highly gifted. There is Portola, which is a magnet school, but we had the one advantage of having started before any of these other programs did. And we developed a reputation that drew students to us. Even though we weren't a magnet, we couldn't offer transportation to them, but they knew that they were going to get an outstanding program.
Gentlemen, we actually have our first caller of the evening, and it's someone who would like to thank you. Carrie is joining us. Carrie, go right ahead. Carrie, and if you can turn down your television, please.
Yes.
Carrie is a parent, it's my understanding, so the accolades keep rolling in. Go right ahead, Carrie.
Hi, Fitz.
Yes?
I just want to thank you a million times. My son is graduating from the program next week, and it's been the wonderful 3 years. I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss the school. And it was wonderful seeing your party the other day when everybody thanked you and celebrated you, and it was more than justified. I think you've been a miracle.
Oh, thank you.
And your program has been the best time in school I ever thought anybody could have. So thank you.
Well,
We don't get many of those really positive. I congratulate
It's
you.
a different kind of question tonight.
And comment. Let me ask you this, because as I listen to you, I wonder what was it about the LA Unified School District 34 years ago that attracted you to this district? Someone could say MIT, educated.
Well, this is a big school district, and it handles a lot of students, and there were quite a few identified gifted. Now, California, for many years now, has identified gifted students, and that's a big help. And there were over 5,000 highly gifted students in the district at one time, and 5,000 gifted, I should say, and a couple thousand maybe highly gifted or so. And to meet their needs was very critical, and private schools can't do that. You know, they can just help those that can afford to pay. You know, and I wanted any student, no matter what his social economic status, who is very bright, would have an opportunity to reach his full potential. Not only for the benefit of the student, which of course is a worthy goal in itself, but for the benefit of our society. We need the people with this breadth of wisdom to be our leaders, to be our citizens who would speak out on things, you know. And as I say, I despair sometimes when I read the newspaper or when I hear somebody speaking and say, gosh, this guy doesn't know what's going on. And a very minimum of this is to have a good literacy in science.
I'm remembering dimly when I had children in grade school, elementary and middle school age, that there was some reluctance to admit that IQ tests were out there and to use them. Am I remembering history correct? Has it been controversial as to whether or not it's a good or a bad idea to use IQ tests?
There is, yes, unfortunately, there is a breed of educators who do not like IQ tests.
Yeah.
They first had the campaign, well, let's have equal opportunity for all students, no matter what their environment or backgrounds or things like this. And that's fine, we provided that. But that still didn't satisfy them. Then they decided, well, what we need is equity, which means equal results, which means pull the bottom up, which is a great idea and very, very important. I'm very strongly in favor of that. But on the side, they say, push the top down. Don't let these kids have special things. That's elitism. That's giving them some special advantages over other people.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is, if you take the highly gifted and you don't educate them properly, they'll make great scam artists. They will do more harm to society. You educate them well, and they'll contribute an enormous amount to society. These kids that come out of there have a tremendous empathy with society, and they want to do good. They want to do something worthwhile. And as we also teach, the more abilities you have, the more you have to give to everyone.
Yeah.
And many of our students agree with that.
Gentlemen, we have another caller on the line. Howard is joining us. Howard is curious about how the IQ tests are conducted. Go right ahead, Howard.
Yeah, Mr. Fitz, I know I heard you saying about IQ testing and then your discourse just before that, but my understanding is that you're not allowed to give IQ tests in LA Unified, so how do you do that?
Oh, no, you're not allowed to give IQ tests except for testing for gifted. In other words, what they didn't want is IQ tests to be used to put kids in remedial classes. That's the only reason. That's the only limitation on them. But they are allowed to be used for identifying gifted students.
So how are they conducted?
Well, when students do well in some of the standardized tests or so at a certain level, you know, then they may be selected out to be given an individualized IQ test. And if the parents want them to apply for a gifted program, then they have to be tested in order to see whether they're eligible for that program.
It was interesting. The other day I received an email from the parent of a gifted student out in the Valley. He was very concerned. It was a letter that they were sending to Governor Gray Davis about the budget cuts specifically to the gifted program. Can you speak to that?
I'm sorry, I guess I didn't. I'm not too familiar with that.